Welcome, Henry. It's a pleasure to have you to talk about Dethroned's upcoming new album, The Judas Paradox, and obviously more things related to the metal world in general. And also, we are starting by asking, how are you? How are you the band during the last couple of years?
Well, we've been doing all right. We've, of course, been suffering from the pandemic, just like everybody else. As you know, we released our previous album, Illuminati, 1 month prior to the pandemic. So it basically means that we could not promote it. We did one European tour to promote it right before the world came to a standstill. And then for a few years, not much happened. And it was very demotivating. Was very disappointed that we couldn't promote the album. I also could not find any motivation to write new songs until last year, when I finally had the energy to write new songs again, and when we started recording the Judas Paradox.
Oh, okay. So, talking about especially for this new album, when did you start writing songs for this new album? Are all the songs new, or did you rescue any compositions that were left for the previous one?
No. We never have any leftovers, never. So there is no Illuminati leftovers on this album. Everything is new. There's one exception. The song Asmodeus was released as a single in 2022. It was our welcoming gift to Raining Phoenix Music to sign us, and we gave them the single, so they had something to release. And that song was re-recorded, but for the rest, all the songs are brand new. And I think I started somewhere in the fall last year. I started writing. I came up with the song Hubris Anorexia, and that was the first song that I wrote, and I sent it to the guys, and they were like, that's the direction you want to go. So then they started writing as well, and then I think somewhere in January, we were finished writing all the songs, and then we started recording. And yeah, that's about it.
Okay. Many bands and musicians see each album as a child, so each one special in its own way. It's a bit of cliche to say that each new releases it's a band's best, but do you consider this for album is your best work to date? And if so, what are the reasons that you make this one as your best work?
Yeah, that's a difficult question because, of course, like you say, every musician thinks that the latest album they did is the best one they ever did. But when you look back on it, like 2 or 3 years later, you will have, a different perspective, and you can say, yeah, these songs were perfect, these songs were maybe not so good. So it's too early to say if this is the best album we ever did. I don't know, but I can tell you that I'm proud of the album. I think there's very strong compositions on the album. Songwriting was really good. The production is really good. It's a very strong album. I like it a lot, but it's up to the fans to decide if it's good enough.
Okay. Now you mentioned one thing, that the previous album Illuminati was released in 2020 at the beginning of the pandemic. All people know about this, but now 4 years later passed for the pandemic. So how many things changed for you compared to the release of the Illuminati compared to this Judas Paradox?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand the question.
Okay, how many things changed compared to the Illuminati promotions with this new album with the Judas Paradox? Talking about the promotion in general.
Yeah. Oh, well, I think we did a good amount of interviews for Illuminati, but it was like more than 4 years. It was like Illuminati was released in February 2020, so that's 4.5 years ago. It means that even before the release, I did all the interviews, so I can't even remember. It's almost 5 years ago, a little bit less than 5 years ago, since I did promotion for Illuminati. So I don't even remember how many interviews I did. But I can tell you that the promotion that Raining Phoenix Music is doing for us is really, really good. It's really good. So I'm very happy to be on that label. And for the rest, I cannot really compare Metal Blade to Raining Phoenix. They're both great labels, but it was good. It was good for us in general to move to a new label. To be on the same label for too long is not very good. And we've been on Metal Blade for 25 years, so it was really time for a change.
Okay, okay. Well, I can, as I can see, since you start your career in 1991, since there you start releasing albums each year, 2 years, it's well, 3 years, different times usually. So are you always working on a new music, or do you prefer to focus on it once you're finishing touring, promoting the last album? Who knows? How do you decide when it's time to work on a new songs and a new album? Because it's been 4 years since your previous album was released. So what made you now the right time to release a new one?
Yeah. Well, normally when we have an album finished, it's released and we start touring, and usually we try to do a new album every 2 to 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
So when you know that, then you also know that after approximately 6 months after the release of the album, you should try to write new songs, because it takes a long time to write songs. It takes a long time to record it, to produce it, mix it. So if you really want to keep the pace on 2 years, then I should start writing new songs approximately October, November, December, January, February, March next year. March, April next year, I should really start working on new songs. So by the end of next year, we start recording, and then then we keep the pace. The reason I did not do this for the new album after Illuminati is because we couldn't do anything during the pandemic. I felt completely demotivated because I just did an album. So to do another album so soon after Illuminati was too difficult for me. I felt completely drained of ideas. I had no inspiration. I was demotivated. So I didn't do any new songs. Hopefully this time, without a pandemic and with the possibility to stay or keep on touring, I will keep my motivation to start writing new songs, and so then I just feel it. My body tells me, okay, Henri, now it's time to start writing new songs if you want to be finished in time. So it will be in the spring of next year that I start writing new songs. Basically, that's the pace.
Okay. So talking about the album, this new album, and how do you choose the name of your album? It is random, or do you try to convey something that encompasses the concept of the entire album?
It's not random. It's never random. The Judas Paradox is a song about Judas and about Jesus. It's a song about the story of betrayal, because everybody says Judas betrayed Jesus. You know the story. Well, I think it could also have been different. So I started doing research on the internet, and I found out that in the Bible, even in the Bible, there's contradicting stories about Judas. So there is a story in the Bible that says that Jesus could look into the future, and he knew what was going on. He knew what would happen. And he also knew that he had to die to be able to return as king of the world. So because he could look in the future, he decided that Judas would be the chosen one to betray him to the Roman soldiers in order for him to be killed. This makes Judas the victim instead of the perpetrator. He's not the betrayer. He was the victim of a scheme set up by Jesus Christ. And this is a true story. And this is called the Judas Paradox, because it's a paradox between, was he a betrayer or was he a victim? And that's the song that I wrote. And so it's never random with me, never.
Well, okay, interesting. So I really like the album art or art for this new album. So how do you choose your album art, and what were you trying to express with it?
Well, the album art is always something we try to find with the topics of the album. So in this case, it was called Judas Paradox. So I wanted to have a certain drawing, a biblical drawing. That's what I told my artwork guy. I said, man, I want some kind of biblical drawing because it fits to the story about Judas. And then he started looking around and he said to me, well, we can also use a painting. This one. He said, we can use a painting because it's in the Museum of Amsterdam, in the Rijksmuseum. And he says, we can take it and use it as artwork for the album. The only thing we have to do is make the colors a bit in unison, like, this color and not like very, very colorful, but like this color. And we just have to mention the name of the painter in the booklet. So we give him the credits for painting the painting, and then we can just use it. And we said, yeah, man, that looks cool. It fits the album title, it fits the band name, it fits everything, it fits the music. So let's use this painting. And that's how we came to it.
Okay. Okay, interesting to know. Now, talking about the reception of the singles, because you released a few singles from this album, how do you feel the fan reception to the singles has been to promote the new album? So, how do you usually choose the singles for a new album, considering that your sound is black, there are a lot of sounds very diverse in general. So, and it would be difficult to have one song that encompasses all music you put in each album.
Yeah, I totally understand what you mean. And I also totally agree. It's very difficult. It's very difficult. So what we do, we talk to the label. And the label tells me, okay, Henri, we want Rat Kingdom as first single. I say, why? Why do you want that song? And then they told me, they said, well, the song begins very melodic with an epic melody, and then the kick drum, and then the drummer starts playing the toms. There's a lot of build-up of energy in the beginning of the song. And then when the intro is over, you start with the blast beat, and it's like very catchy. And he said, it's just a gut feeling, but I think we should take that song as the first single. I said, okay, if that's what you want, if you think it's the best choice, then do it. Because I don't know. We've been writing the songs as a band, and we've been working on it so closely that I cannot make a decision anymore. So the label is making the decisions. So the label said Red Kingdom first, the Judas Paradox is a second single. Next week will be a third single. It's called The Hanged Man. And then there will be another single later in the year. Towards the end of the year, we will do a single and a new video for the Kashmir Princess. And the label decides. And it makes sense. It makes sense.
Oh, yeah, that is true. So we are talking about now the promotion of this new album. What kind of plans do you have for this new album? Perhaps you will embark tours, you will prepare more videos, or perhaps you are already working in a continuation for this new album. Who knows?
Yeah, no, well, for now we are doing still a lot of promotions for the new album, interviews and stuff. We released the video for the Judas Paradox 2 weeks ago. And now we are getting prepared for the European tour with Batushka and Ultimas. The tour will start on September 26th until October 28th, all over Europe. And then we are getting prepared to go to tour the United States of America early next year. And then hopefully also next year we can come back to Latin America as well as Australia, Japan, Southeast Asia. We hope to do a world tour again for this album.
Okay, interesting to know. So as a veteran band, what inspires you to create new music and bet on new releases in a digital age where you have hundreds of bands releasing albums every week? So there is a lot of competition, that's normally. So do you feel like you have to compete with many bands nowadays?
Yes. Oh, yes. There's more bands than ever. It's easier than ever to release a new music. So there is a lot of competition, and it feels like yeah, it feels like we have to compete with a lot of bands. It's not so easy, because if there's people who don't know us, how can we reach those people? Because there's so many other bands for them to listen to. So it's quite a challenge nowadays to be well known. Sometimes I think it's even better to release a new song every 6 weeks instead of doing an album every 2 or 3 years. Because if you release something every 6 to 8 weeks, you will have something new every 2 months, meaning that you will have more spotlight on you. But on the other hand, if you have a big record label like we have, and they can push the new album all over the world at the same time, that is also good. It's very difficult to make the right decision at the moment.
Well, yeah. So if someone who just discovers you sees that your origins go back to 1991, so they will think that you play like classic death black metal stuff, all these kind of things, but it's not the case. As you mentioned, you God Dethroned has to push, and all in each album push your sound, achieved since the beginning to now. So including different styles, melodic, a lot of stuff, because you are working more than 10 albums since you started your career. So what is the reason for your musical evolution, and how do you define your sound when they ask you?
Yeah, well, we define our sound nowadays as blackened death metal. So it's a mix between death and black metal and death metal, whatever comes first. So the term blackened death metal fits us very well. I know a band like Behemoth is also considering themselves as a blackened death metal band. Well, that's great, because we mix death metal and black metal, and we developed our sound by trying to stay modern. The demo we did in '91. The demo had a very Scandinavian, Swedish, entombed, dismemberer-like guitar sound. But if we would have stayed like that, then we would have been a very old school death metal band. But I don't want to do that. I want to evolve with the times, because I still listen to metal. I still enjoy the new subgenres in metal. I still enjoy new bands with a new sound, and we try to adapt. We will always sound like God Dethroned, but we will try to adapt to the sound, the sound that's modern, so we will not sound outdated, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I understood completely. And the next question goes, according to the last thing that you said, you are one of the few person that has more than 50 years or 40 years old that hear new bands. Because when I spoke with a lot of bands from the 80s, from 90s, they usually stick or with the past bands, with past albums. They don't hear new bands, new albums, new singles, new sounds, etc. They prefer to just stick with the old sounds from the, I don't know, from the 80s, 70s, etc., etc. So for you, what are you usually what do you think about usually the bands from the 90s, 80s, and 70s stuck on time with the old bands and doesn't and they doesn't want hear more bands with new bands?
On one hand, I can understand. I can understand that at a certain point in your life, you go back to the music you started with. The music you grew up with is the music that stays closest to your heart. So it also means for me that I listen to bands from the 90s, from the 80s, the 70s, but I don't listen to metal bands all the time. I listen to all kinds of music, first of all, but I also listen to the radio, and I also listen to new metal bands. I listen to hardcore bands. I listen to metalcore bands, deathcore bands, death metal, black metal, heavy metal. I listen to everything, but I spread it out, mixed with rock music. I like David Gilmour. He's the guitar player for Pink Floyd for many years. I like his music. I like the atmosphere. I like Golden Earring. It's an very old Dutch rock band. I like that too. But I like it. I like a lot of music because it gives me different vibes. It gives me different inspiration. Sometimes I get an idea for a melody by listening to a rock band or a pop band instead of listening to metal bands only. If I have to listen to metal only, it can get very boring, and I like to listen to everything. So the good thing about staying up to date is that you know what's going on, and I don't want to sound like an old guy in an old band who stick to the sound of 1990. You know, I would like to sound like a band from 2024. That's what I want. And you cannot do it if you only listen to bands from the 90s. That's not going to work.
No, yeah, that is true. That is true. I'm talking about now the history of the Dethroned. So Dethroned was born in a country where death metal was the main style in the 80s and 90s with Pestilence, with Asphyx, etc., and then Sinister and more things. So, but you always lean down with a little vibe of black metal since your first album. So there you are, as you mentioned, you're mixing the black with death metal style with black and the death metal style. So for you now, how many things changed since you were born in the 90s compared to the scene nowadays in Netherlands?
Well, the biggest difference is that in the 90s we had a lot of big especially death metal bands and grindcore bands from the Netherlands who were well known all over the world. When by the end of the 90s, the death metal trend had faded away a little bit. It became more black metal bands, but not the Dutch black metal bands. And then over the years, we got the female fronted bands like The Gathering, Within Temptation. They became huge. Those were the first bands who were mixing metal music with female vocals. And they became big, and nowadays you see that they were trendsetters for a huge market in female-fronted orchestral metal bands, so to speak. And this is something that has become really big over here. Death metal nowadays in our country is not very big. Same for black metal. There's a lot of people who like it, but compared to the newer female-fronted bands, it's very small. It used to be a lot bigger, but it's normal. You get a new trend, it gets big, and then the trend is over, it gets smaller again. And those waves will always be there. So my genre is not super big anymore not in Europe at all.
Well, yeah. It's during the recent years, I saw that the alternative wave in Europe is growing so fast the last days with Germany, Swedish, Finland, a lot of alternative bands from influence with the 90s, obviously. So that's curious thing for me. So now talking about, especially for the sound of Dethroned, you have more than 10 albums in your career. And obviously you have more than one milestone according to you, perhaps, because the press usually say the bloody blasphemy is the great word from Dethroned. Other press say that is into the lawns of hell. Who knows? There's a lot of albums to speak. But for you, you are the creator of this for all albums or all songs in the career of Dethroned. So for you, which are the big milestones that Dethroned has in the career, or which are the milestones that the albums defines the sound that Dethroned has until today for you?
My personal favorite albums are the Grand Grimoire. It was the first mature album that Dethroned did. The Christland was very immature. We were a very inexperienced band. If I look at the songwriting now, I don't like it that much. But the album, The Grand Grimoire, was the first album that showed a very mature Dethroned with very good songs, strong songs. I love that album. Of course, the whole world thinks that Bloody Blasphemy is a better album, but to me, Bloody Blasphemy was a breakthrough album, but it doesn't mean it was a much better album than the Grand Grimoire. For me, the Grand Grimoire for many years was the best album we ever did. Then, in 2009, we did Passchendaele the first album of the World War I trilogy. I love that album. I think Passchendaele is, together with Grand Grimoire, also one of the top 3 albums from our career. Then number 3, that's a difficult one, because I think I would say that Illuminati was also a top 3 album, because the atmosphere on that album, because we went from an anti-Christian band to a band with World War I topics, war topics, and then with Illuminati we went back to the roots in a little bit. Like, we were not anti-Christian so much or anti-religion, but now we have more the style of Freemasonry, Illuminati, Egyptian mythology, conspiracy theories. It's the dark side of metal, but it's not so much anti-Christian or anti-religion. It's a little bit more in depth, it's a little bit deeper. And I thought Illuminati was a beautiful album, so I would normally choose Illuminati. But now with the new album, with the Judas Paradox, yeah, that makes it very difficult, because I think the Judas Paradox is even a step up from Illuminati. So, but if you take my whole career, I would say Grand Grimoire, Passchendaele, and then Illuminati, Judas Paradox. Okay. Something like that.
Okay, interesting. No, because many people think that the Bloody Blasphemy is the great stone in your career. I saw a lot of reviews saying that I remember when this album came in the 1999, and a lot of people say that is the best work to date. Even near reviews saying is still mentioned in this album today. So that's a curious thing. So
yeah, it is a beautiful album. I know. We played the whole album live in 2019 as a bonus DVD for the Illuminati album, and we played all the songs from the Bloody Blasphemy. And I noticed that a couple of songs are super strong. I really like to play them live, but there were also a couple of songs I thought like, oh, I'm so glad I don't have to play these songs normally, because I didn't like them at all. I think it's normal. I think it's normal.
Well, okay. And one of the last questions, we are very close to this interview, Henri. So, as you can see now, the world changed a lot. As you mentioned it there, the satanism idea or the anti-Christianity idea is not longer that someone piece off very, very easy with this. Because I remember when you spoke about the Satan or this kind of stuff in the 80s or 90s, the people were more shocked with the lyrics for the images, and a lot of stuff happened at that time. Now you put a pentagram in social media, and thousands of people follow the pentagram, or thousands of people are Satanists, or thousands of people believes in Satan. I don't know. There is a church now with the Satanist religion. So for you now, how many things change according to your Satanist perspective now? Because now, as I mentioned, there is a church with Satanism. In the 80s, we don't have a Satanist churches there.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Things are more accepted. That's very true. Things are more accepted. People are not so shocked anymore as they were in the past. But I can tell you, at the same time, most people will still be against you. Bands like Deicide, Rotting Christ, God Dethroned, Behemoth, you name it. When you have a very anti-religious image, at least, there will be a lot of people against you because of your band name. I can still notice every day that the band name is holding us back. There is people from festivals who don't want you to play their festival because of your name. There is people who don't want you on a tour because of your name. There is people who will never check out your music because of your name. The band name God Dethroned is holding a lot of success away from us. If I would have chosen a different band name back in the day, we would have benefited from it a lot more than we do now. So I still stand behind my choices. I still believe in the choices I made. But it doesn't make life easier, I can tell you. It does not, even not today. even not from the metal scene. People are still offended by band names like ours.
Okay, okay. Well, that is curious. Well, that's a good thing because, well, for me, the last years of the metal, yes, we're more accepted. A lot of bands, a lot of lyrics. But one thing that captured my attention is about news. Gojira was blocked in Twitter, or because they supposedly they talk about satanism, but they don't. They speak about ambient, about ecologists and other things. But the people think that they are satanists. That's a curious thing. A good way to promote metal until now. For
Yeah.
so well, Henry, the sad times arrived to this interview. I hope you enjoyed this one like me. This is the last that you desperate, as you mentioned. It's a great stunt in your career. I hope you came for the second time here in Latin America to a full tour again. So perhaps do you want to add something to your Latin American fans that expect you return perhaps next year or in 2 years more? Who knows? And Metallarium followers.
Yeah, I would like to thank everybody for checking out God Dethroned. I would like to thank everybody who made it to one of the live shows we did in the past. Hopefully we can come back next year. That's really my goal. I really like to tour Latin America again, so I'm looking forward to it. And yeah, I hope that people will check out the new album. It would be great. It's a lovely album. It's a very diverse album. It's brutal and it's atmospheric at the same time. So yeah, thanks to the fans in Latin America. I hope to see you soon.